Hey guys, it's Emily here. I hope you guys are all doing well. Welcome to my podcast series. So, I wanted to kind of start off with a question that basically explains this whole project. Is the internet actually changing the way kids grow up, or are we just reacting the same way people always have to new technology? For this project, for my final project, I'm doing a deep dive into how the internet is affecting children's development. And I'm going to be focusing on things like how kids learn, how they pay attention, how they interact with people, and just overall how growing up looks different now compared to before. I split everything up into episodes so it's easier for you guys to follow, and I'm trying to keep it more like a conversation instead of just sounding like I'm reading a paper. The reason I picked this topic is because I've honestly seen it in my own life. I have both older and younger cousins, and the difference between how they grew up is actually kind of wild to me. My older cousins didn't really grow up with much technology. Yeah, they had a TV, maybe a family computer, but that was pretty much it. They didn't have constant access to the internet the way kids do now. But my younger cousins, it's completely different. They've basically had iPads, phones, and access to the internet since they were really little. They know how to swipe, tap, open apps, and watch videos before they could even fully read or write. And to them, that's just normal. It's the norm. They don't even think about it as technology. It's just part of their everyday life. So seeing that difference between my cousins made me start to wonder, is growing up with constant internet access actually changing how kids develop, or is it just a different version of childhood that we're not used to yet? Before getting into research though, we kind of have to talk about something really important, which is how people react to new technology. Because this whole situation isn't new at all. A really good example of this actually comes from The Music Man in the song You Got Trouble. Basically, there's just this guy who convinces an entire town that playing pool is going to lead to serious problems for their kids. He simply exaggerates everything and turns something small into something that sounds dangerous. And the crazy part of it all is that it actually works. Everyone believes him. Why? Because he's targeting something really strong, which is parents wanting to protect their kids. And when something new comes along, it's really easy to make it seem like it's a threat. And honestly, we still do this today. If you think about it, every generation has something they worry about. At one point, it was rock music. People thought it was going to corrupt kids. Then it was TV, and people thought kids would become lazy or stop thinking. Then it was video games, and people thought they would cause aggression or mess up attention. And now it's the internet. It's basically the same pattern over and over again, just with different technology. According to Professor Gernsbacher's lectures, this kind of fear is really common with new technology, even when there isn't strong evidence that it's actually harmful. A lot of the time, it's not really about the technology, it's about the fact that it's new and unfamiliar. Another reason this happens is the generational gap. Parents didn't grow up with the same technology their kids are using, so it feels harder to understand it and control it. And when something feels unfamiliar, it's easier to assume it might be harmful. There's also just the fact that technology changes really fast nowadays. Things are constantly updating, new apps are coming out, new platforms, new trends. It can all honestly feel overwhelming. And when something feels overwhelming, people tend to react more negatively to it. The media also makes this worse. There's this phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, which basically means that more dramatic or negative stories get more attention. So naturally, we see more headlines about how the internet might be harming kids instead of hearing about the benefits. And a lot of those headlines don't really include strong scientific evidence. They're more about getting attention than actually explaining what's going on. So, if you're familiar with like fake news. So, one big thing to keep in mind for this whole podcast series is this. Just because something is new and feels kind of risky doesn't automatically mean it's bad. That doesn't mean the internet has no effect. It definitely does. But it does mean we need to look at actual research instead of just reacting based on fear. So instead of asking, is the internet bad for kids? A better question is, how is it actually affecting them? And that's what I'm going to start getting into in the next episode, where I'll focus on how the internet affects kids' learning, thinking, and attention, which is where things get a little bit more detailed. See you later.